growing up as a kid, I always felt I was dumb because I didn't do well in school. And figured out that, hey, I'm not dumb, I just don't learn the way that other kids do. And found out, hey, I'm actually pretty smart. And just really found a passion for learning and growing and teaching people and educating people. And so I'm a mortgage lender to be able to help people through a very complex transaction by educating them, making them not feel lost like I felt as a kid when I was just not doing well in school. Welcome back to Process Beats Talent. We are super excited to finish up this series on influence. Today we're going to be talking about the second and third portion of what we talked about last week in starting with framing. So today we're going to be talking about storytelling. We're going to be talking about tying that down and really telling you what those are. But this influence equation is really powerful. So we wanted to make sure and have plenty of time to talk about it and not try to rush it into one episode and making it super long for you guys to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. The other two pieces of this are each is equally as important, but the framing ended up, that's pretty specific in the way that we approach that, and so we wanted to give it its own time and allow you to digest that by itself.
Yep, for sure. So the second and third portion of the equation that we're going to be talking about for influence is storytelling and the tie down. So Chase, what is storytelling?
Okay, so storytelling, we talked about this last week, right? It's conversationally, often when people ask you a question or you ask them a question, their response is to answer in one or two words. Very simple, to the point, and a lot of times we think this is good, right? But when we discuss,
and it can be sometimes,
for sure. Right? It depends on the situation. But when we talked about framing last week, and those instances where you want to grab their attention and you will want to rebuild the frame or rebuild the narrative around whatever topic you're discussing or whatever question you ask, that's when storytelling comes into play. And so when they celebrate those two words or those simple answers, it's directed to the point. But if there's something that's super important or something that you need to direct them with, then that's when you bring in your story, and you use your story to reframe their conscious or reframe their narrative and point them down the direction that you want to go.
Yep. Another word for this I've heard is messaging, right? So you've framed the conversation, you've cast your coming answer in a light where they're looking at it from your perspective, they're seeing it from an angle that you want them to see it in, and next you're going to give them the message, the proposal, whatever it is. And so really storytelling and framing are really, they come in a pair. You have to do one with the other. You can't do one without the other.
Right.
And so an example that came to mind for me that as I've been working through my past and my life and what's happened to me and what's made me the way that I am, which we need to do to be able to, have these emotional stories for selling. For me as a kid, I look at it and I wasn't good in school, and that surprises some people that know me, because I am, I realized I am pretty smart on things, but in school I wasn't. And so growing up, I thought it was stupid, and it's because I didn't fit inside of what the mentality and the type of learning for a school environment. 30 kids learning for a test, that's not how I operate. And so for me, when I look at it, I like to tell the story of, if I'm needing to frame something around a conversation, like specifically for work, people, when they ask me what I do for work, sometimes I'll use this story as an example that, growing up as a kid, I was never told I was dumb, but I always felt I was dumb because I didn't do well in school. And so when I got into my adulthood and figured out that, hey, I'm not dumb, I just don't learn the way that other kids do, and found out, hey, I'm actually pretty smart, and just really found a passion for learning and growing and teaching people and educating people. And so when I got into the mortgage industry, that's something that I saw, is there was a lack of education and a lack of understanding about the mortgage industry, and people felt so lost in a very complex transaction. So I'm a mortgage lender to be able to help people through a very complex transaction by educating them, walking them through the process, and making them not feel lost like I felt as a kid when I was just not doing well in school.
So I love that story, Justin. And if you were listening, he did describe, you know, where that came from before he went into his story. That's for you, the listener. But him telling his story and then tying it into what he does is really, really important. And if you'll notice, so he could have done that a different way. He could have said, yeah, I'm a mortgage lender because I love to educate because I wasn't that great in school. Like, it still doesn't have the same effect. He took you all the way to the past. He didn't answer in the here and now. He didn't quickly, you know, give you an explanation. It's not authentic. It doesn't invoke emotion. He took you back to his childhood. He took you to the feelings that he was going through and what drove him to bring him here, right? And we all have that, right? We have, pretty sure we've said this before, but there's two things that we're trying to do with our past. We're either trying to honor our past or we're trying to repair it. And we all have those instances of both, and bringing that emotion and you know, using that to derive where we're at today, and you know, connecting those things can be difficult. But if we all do the work and learn how that is affecting us, then it allows us to really bring that into what we're doing and to affect people emotionally.
Oh, for sure. Yep. The beautiful thing about storytelling is, and I know we've mentioned this in the past, but primarily because I find it fascinating. Mm-hmm. So when they have done brain scans on the storyteller and on the listener, the parts of their brain from the person speaking and the person listening are lit up almost identically. Mm-hmm. And so the cool thing and the interesting thing about that is they're almost a mirrored image. And really what that means for you and for us is when you are telling a story and when you are evoking emotion, taking them on a journey into your past, really you're setting them up, you're putting them in a position where they are now ready to be influenced. Mm-hmm. With framing, again, you're setting the frame, you're getting them ready to hear the story or the message, but with framing, you haven't influenced them yet.
Right, exactly.
And the influence is done in both the storytelling as well as the tie down that we're going to talk about now.
Yeah. And tie down this is the final piece to the equation. And what tie down does, if you do it correctly, it's the most powerful part of the equation, right? Because you set the stage with the others, but the tie down makes the person want to act, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, now I have to do this.
It's that influence component.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. It makes them want to take action. So in tying something down, you've framed it, you've told your story. Now with the tie down, we're going to laser focus into creating an action with whoever you're having that conversation.
Yep, exactly. That's what I was just thinking, is now you're basically, kind of an easy way to look at it is you're giving them a statement of what's in it for them.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
Yep, exactly. So the thing that I love about this, and if I step back to my story that I just told you before, the way I could tie that down for the person that I'm talking to is I've framed it that, hey, listen, I thought I was dumb as a kid. I learned that I wasn't. I brought in some emotion. The tie down in this instance could be, and if we ever have a chance to work together, you have my guarantee that you will never, ever be confused about where we are. Mm-hmm. I will walk you through the process to where you are always aware of what's happening, what the next steps are. And so that's kind of a way to be able to frame it to where now they're like, oh, hey, awesome. He framed it. He told me a story that evokes some emotion. And then he kind of gave me a what's in it for me statement.
Yep.
And, that just came out of a question of, well, what do you do for work, right?
Yep.
But now I walk away with somebody that in their mind, I've connected with them emotionally, and now they're to the point where if they need a refinance or they're going to purchase, to where they're going to think, you know what, Justin's a mortgage lender, we should give him a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most powerful thing about it is if you do the work, we all have these stories in us, and they're affecting what we do. And a lot of times we don't understand that, right? Mm-hmm. Like we go about our day, we're at this point in our life, we're doing this job, and a lot of times we don't really know why we're doing it or what's drawn us to it. Mm-hmm. And so I as much as I enjoy the sales process and learning about the sales process and enhancing my skills, it makes you stronger as a person, I think, by understanding, and where this takes you and capturing that emotion in what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the thing that I love about influence is it's not just a sales skill, right? Influence, like we talked about in the last episode, is really a life skill because it can be applied in almost any situation that we are in as humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we are trying to get somebody to see something from our perspective, whether we're trying to get them to act and move on something, that's influence. We are trying to influence their decision process.
Yeah, and it's so for me, I aspire to be a great storyteller. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really do to be a great public speaker and to be a great storyteller. As you can see, I've got a long way to go. I realize that.
Same here.
But that's what I aspire to. And when I listen to a great storyteller, it blows your mind. Like, because it's like reading a book. It takes you there. You're in the moment. You're
Yep.
feeling the emotions. You're experiencing what they're experiencing. And if you can get to that with your story, the emotional connection is so deep and it's so quick that there's nothing but positive that comes from that.
Yep, absolutely. And the reason why that is because, again, going back to the brain scan, your brain is firing the same way that storyteller that is vividly imagining what's happening. The same things happen in our brains when we are hearing a good told story.
Right.
That's well thought through, that's very detail oriented, and then it's primarily evoking emotion, right?
Yeah. And I think statistically, and I can't remember the exact percentage, but I think like 60, you have a 60 or 70% chance of the person that you're speaking to remembering your story, remembering what you're trying to deliver to them if you tell a story with it.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. Well, I couldn't tell you her name. I know I followed her on social media, but the gal at our last conference in January that told a story about her favorite color.
Oh yeah.
Right. We used the example of what our favorite colors were in the last episode.
Lacey Moore.
No, it was the gal. She's not from our company.
Oh, gotcha.
Anyway, yellow, right?
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. So her favorite color is yellow, and she told this story about her mom and going through cancer and battling, and how she was her sunshine hero or some. I can't remember what the exact story was, but her favorite color was yellow.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I don't remember her name. I could find her on social media if I needed to. But that story evoked emotion, connected with me personally, and I would guarantee most of the people in the audience. And really, I mean, when I think of yellow now, I think of her.
Yeah.
And just like maybe with the color red for Chase's truck and his dad, or me and my color brown for my dad's saddle, that's something that you may remember also when you think of a saddle, or you think of brown, or you see a red Ford truck driving down the road, because it connected emotionally with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key. That's, for me, that's what's changed. This process, learning and studying, and far from perfecting it, but learning and studying this process has changed me as a salesperson, somebody who's done sales most of his life in one form or another. But it really shortens it. For me especially, I'm a relationship person. I love people, but most of us don't open up immediately, right? And we don't make the emotional connection immediately, so it takes time. So it's return, seeing people, having conversations, and then, we get them into the sales pipe, right? But with this, and it's just by being you and just opening up and telling your story, you're able to connect almost immediately with your client or your customer, your friend, or whoever you're trying to connect with.
Yep.
And it really shortens that sales cycle. It opens them up, and they're more likely to receive what you're saying.
Yep. Now, as I was just sitting here thinking of Chase, or thinking about what Chase was saying, I was thinking of people in my life that I know that do that open up emotionally very quickly. And I was thinking of two people. One is the type that just blathers anything and tells you about everything about their life when you're like, oh gosh, this is awkward. So don't be that,
Right.
But find an appropriate way to share, and an appropriate way to share and connect emotionally. And if you do that, and you look at those people in your life, those are the people that we feel influenced by, and those are the people that we connect with. But don't be an overshare, because that just makes people feel awkward.
That's true. Absolutely. It has to be in the right situation.
Yep.
For sure.
Appropriately timed. Connecting emotionally is very huge in sales, because that's not something that people are doing in sales. So if you do that in sales appropriately, you will connect with those people so much faster, instead of taking weeks and months to become connected and become, kind of a friendship with them, to where they're going to work with you. You're able to do it quickly and get it done to the point where they're ready to go. They're ready to work with you right now.
Yep, absolutely. So with that, I think we now have the overview of the influence equation, right? The framing, the storytelling, the tie down. Work on these. Please reach out, through the Facebook group, through YouTube. Ask questions if there's ways that we can help you enhance this tool and this skill. We are absolutely open to doing that. Please like and subscribe on the Facebook page so you can get notifications when we post new videos. But we're so thankful that you're joining us. We hope you enjoy the content, and we can't wait for the next one.
Yep, exactly. Tune in for the next one. We have a lot of good content coming down the pipe, including more on influence. This is a complex topic. We're going to be talking about it more in depth, but this was kind of just a sneak peek to kind of wet your whistles and get you ready for more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye.